report on NewX World. Let's take a look at the top headlines of this hour. According to Russian-installed Governor Vladimir Saldo, it has said that at least 24 people were killed and 29 injured after 3 Ukrainian drones struck a hotel and a cafe during New Year celebrations in the coastal village of Horly in Russia, and Russia has claimed. However, Ukraine has not commented for now. According to a statement by the Somali Defense Ministry on X, Somalia's armed forces have killed 29 Al-Shabaab terrorists in southeastern Somalia. The ministry has said the operation was conducted with international partners while praising their support in security cooperation, intelligence sharing, and operations against Al-Shabaab. According to the Chinese Foreign Ministry, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi has criticized Japan and pressed South Korea to back Beijing's One China policy position on Taiwan during a phone call with South Korean Foreign Minister Cho Hyun ahead of a presidential summit. Official statements from China's Taiwan Affairs Office, Beijing has condemned Taiwan leader William Lai's New Year's Day speech as full of lies and malice after he vowed to strengthen Taiwan's defenses just days after PLA live fire drills around the island. According to the Israeli military, Israeli forces have killed a 26-year-old Palestinian identified as Khattab al-Sarhan during an early morning operation in the occupied West Bank. After opening fire on people accused of throwing stones at soldiers, the Israeli military said the stone throwing was part of an ambush. A member of Iran's security forces was killed during protests that have swept across the country since last week, local media has reported. The United States has carried out strikes against 3 vessels in international waters that were suspected of trafficking narcotics. According to the U.S. Southern Command, the vessels were traveling as a convoy. Chinese rocket maker Landspace is seeking to raise about $1 billion in Shanghai Star Market IPO after its listing application was fast-tracked and accepted by the Shanghai Stock Exchange. Landspace's IPO comes as Beijing pushes aerospace as a strategic priority. Now we start this hour with U.S. New York City's next Mayor Zohran Mamdani is preparing to take office amid a deepening affordability crisis and growing fiscal pressures. The typical New York City household now spends more than half of its income on rent, while about 100,000 people sleep in homeless shelters each night. Median rents in Manhattan have climbed above $5,400 a month, and 1.4 million residents, roughly 15% of the population, are food insecure. Childcare costs are among the highest in the nation, with a family needing to earn more than $330,000 a year to afford care for a toddler. Mamdani won the most votes of any New York City mayor in 60 years, campaigning on working-class issues and pledging a rent freeze on early $1 million rent, stabilized apartments, expanded affordable housing, free childcare for children under 5, and fare-free city buses. But his progressive agenda faces significant obstacles. The city is heading towards a $6.5 billion budget gap by 2027. Job growth is slowing, and many non-profit housing providers say they're already struggling to cover rising costs. Mamdani also needs state approval to raise taxes on wealthy residents and corporations to fund his plans. Complicating matters further is a challenging federal environment. Republicans in Washington are cutting funding for programs like Medicaid and SNAP, and the Trump administration is withholding $18 billion in federal transit funding for New York City projects. Now for this discussion, we welcome Mr. Mark Sutherland. He's a geopolitical commentator, joins us live from London. Thank you very much, Mr. Sutherland, for joining us once again, and Happy New Year to you. Now looking at...
Happy New Year to you, Asuma. Thank you.
Thank you. Now looking at this, how significant is it that, Africa-born and also South India related Mamdani has won this, to become the mayor?
Well, it's extremely significant, and if I may say, as I'm here in the UK, then commenting on the great city of New York, a city that I do know and love and have dear friends there. It is very, very significant because Mr. Mamdani, what are your American roots? What are your understanding of the Constitution of America? What are your understanding of its history? What are your understanding of how and who then built New York is one of my many questions that I have. But reflecting on this, as we also have huge issues in London, hearing anyone that is homeless is extremely sad and needs to be dealt with. But the thing is when you come in with a socialist mindset, that's your biggest challenge for a start, because as we are finding over here, which is why the UK economy is an absolute disaster, is that if you keep taxing people until you squeeze their pips so tightly that they've got nothing left to give, then you've got no room for growth. At the end of the day, you tax people, you take money out of people's pockets where they can't spend it on that building. And in the end, you then see a socialization of that, of actually telling people where they can actually spend their money and sell their building. They've got to sell their building to these particular individuals instead of empowering that for themselves, which of course that's why people are saying this is extremely unconstitutional. And just finally, assuming it's always a challenge within a big city, as you are seeing, as people are saying, I have to accept the facts that you've read out on face value because I haven't seen those facts, and there are lots of figures to go over, particularly in New York and other cities. But we have to take that on face value. Of course, things at times are expensive within cities. There is a demand. Many people want to go there because they see the opportunities for jobs and work. But at the end of the day, having a good, vibrant economy, and New York has always been known for that, even though it's had its moments, particularly in regard to crime, etc. But this is why it's challenging. It needs a vibrant economy. And I would say to you and say to others, how you get that balance where you want free transport this, free transport for that, but how do you actually then pay for that, and how do you then balance? But more importantly, how then do you balance of what is the true American way and what it stands for? And it needs people to then contribute instead of putting a hand out that says give to me. So getting all of this balance is extremely difficult. However, just finally, when you then you have pitched your political position of all these free handouts, you have then got to deliver. And Mr. Mamdani is about to find out how extremely difficult that will be.
Yes, thank you for highlighting that. We will be eyeing that, Mr. Sutherland. Please stay with us as we come back to you for a later discussion as well. Now, moving on to our next news, Chief Justice John Roberts has called on Americans to uphold faith in the Constitution and the independence of the judiciary, releasing a history-focused annual report as the nation approaches its 250th anniversary. Without naming President Donald Trump, Roberts has emphasized the courts as a counter-majoritarian check designed to operate free from political pressure. The report comes amid ongoing clashes between federal courts and the Trump administration, which has criticized judges who blocked its policies while avoiding modern controversies. Roberts has pointed to the 1804 impeachment of Justice Samuel Chase as a warning against removing judges over disagreements with their rulings. Roberts has reiterated that impeachment is not an appropriate response to judicial decisions, closing by urging unity and constitutional respect amid today's partisan divisions. Now, for this discussion, we welcome Mr. Raymond Vickery. He's an international affairs expert, joins us live and a former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce, joins us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much, Mr. Vikri, for joining us, and Happy New Year to you. Now, looking at this, how significant is this report, and also the fact that it hasn't directly mentioned current U.S. President Trump, and also what will be the impact of this report?
Well, thanks very much for having me, Asuma, and Happy New Year to you and your viewers. It is absolutely true what the Chief Justice has written in this report, that you must have an independent judiciary to have a check on the tyranny of the majority. If you're going to have human rights, rights to free speech, to assembly, to petition, you can't have those rights simply decided by a majority of voters. Democracy requires a rule of law. So that much of the report is absolutely true. However, the question really before the court is whether they're going to rein in President Donald Trump, who has acted in a lawless fashion in many cases, and has called for impeachment of judges who do not agree with him. It's quite proper for Chief Justice Roberts not to mention directly Donald Trump in his report, and to provide it as the background document. However, the court is faced with that issue of reining in the president, the separation of powers, the rights for the judiciary to act as a check and a balance on the president in the tariff cases which are coming up. The president has founded much of his policy on tariffs and has caused turmoil throughout not only the United States in terms of inflation and the domestic economy, but the world economy, and by extension, the strategic relationships between great countries such as India, democracies in Western Europe, Japan, simply because he has resorted to these tariffs. So that is going to be where the rubber meets the road, and not in terms of what the historic perspective is. I must say that while Chief Justice Roberts is a fine and man who has very high ethical standards, the prospects for reining in are very mixed. He has written the opinion of the court giving immunity to President Trump and other presidents for acts within their purview as president. He has voted to gut the civil rights law. He has voted in favor of unchecked money in terms of politics in the Citizens United case. On the other hand, he did stand up for Obamacare and save that. And he has the instincts which are set forth in this report. This report is really an annual exercise of the Chief Justice for the opening of the court each year. So it is not an extraordinary kind of document, but it remains to be seen whether or not there is going to be the follow-through in restoring the historic checks and balances of the judiciary and the legislature in regard to the president. And that is something which will be monumental in terms of the history of the United States, and it will come back down in this new year.
Right. With that, I would like to thank Mr. Raymond Vikri for joining us today and sharing that insight. Thank you very much. Now we move on to Iran. Iran has executed at least 1,500 people in 2025, a significant rise in capital punishment according to the Iran Human Rights Group. This marks the highest number in 35 years, amid these protests have intensified over high inflation and a collapsing currency. The first fatality from the unrest occurred in Kuhdasht, where 21-year-old Amir Hossam Khodayari Fard, a Basij militia member, was killed. Iran's government faces growing pressure, with rising inflation and Western sanctions crippling the economy. A shift from previous responses, President Pezeshkian has called for dialogue with union leaders, while police have flooded the streets to contain the protests. Now for this discussion, we welcome Mr. Mark Sutherland. He's a geopolitical commentator, joins us live from London. Thank you very much, Mr. Sutherland, for staying with us. Now, looking at this, even looking back at protests and how they were contained in Iran, now that Iran's government is asking the protest leaders to come for a dialogue or have a dialogue with them, what can we expect from this dialogue? And also knowing that in past the dialogues with protest leaders haven't really made a significant difference.
If you are a regime that puts all the needs of its people last and puts the number one priority to destroy the state of Israel, which it is, according to them, then they need to ask themselves some very, very serious questions. And that is why, especially in 2009, under the president then Obama of the United States, people rose up then and have risen up at various times. And this is extremely serious, as we now see that the Iranian currency, the rial, is 1.5 million to $1. We have also seen the water issues that Tehran has, etc. And basically the economy is fallen through the floor. Then if you are listening to incredible independent podcasters like Harris Sultan and his guests, who are Iranian, and people coming on and explaining what's going on, the worry for them is this. It's all very well the present regime turning around and saying, well, we'll sit down and we'll have a negotiate with you, as one amazing Iranian pointed out. Okay, fine, we'll get rid of the hijab. We'll allow you to watch films with women that are not wearing the hijab. We may even allow alcohol. That's what the point I'm making is that people do not want those kind of negotiations. They want the regime to go, period, because the regime's priority are not the incredible Persian people of Iran, and not to looking at their great history and what they actually stand for. And they have been oppressed after getting rid of the Shah in 1979, when we have seen the unification then of Islam with Marxists, and we have to see how that then worked out in regard to the Marxist favor, as they were then all taken out and shot against the wall. But as they say, there's all people useful idiots. People have had enough in Iran. Now, what the Western media needs to do, in my humble opinion, and well done to NewX, because we're having this discussion, is to get the facts as much as possible and to report this. And any regime that their number one is to suppress their people, wherever that is around the world, that then needs to go. People need freedom. And as I just say, I'll end with this. Iran, the Persian people, have an amazing history culturally, and that amazing history and culture needs to be in a position again where it can then flourish. And what is significant is when you've got the Bazaarians, as they're called, the businessmen, who are now coming out against the regime because basically they've seen their economy go through the floor. This is extremely serious. And also finally, the authorities in the regime in regard to Iran, they are the ones that are armed. The people are not. And there is a lot of extremely brave people that are standing up and saying we have had enough of this suppression. Asuma.
Place for more than 3 decades, even as bilateral ties remain strained. The exchange took place on January 1st of this year under a 1988 bilateral agreement that prohibits both countries from attacking each other's nuclear facilities. The pact, which came into force in 1991, requires the annual sharing of information on nuclear installations on the first day of every year. Pakistan's Foreign Office has said that list of nuclear installations was handed to a representative of the Indian High Commission in Islamabad through a diplomatic channel. India simultaneously shared a similar list with Pakistani officials in New Delhi. Both sides have also exchanged a list of prisoners under a consular access agreement signed in 2008. Pakistan has shared details of 257 Indian prisoners, including 199 fishermen and 58 civilians. India, in return, has shared details of 424 Pakistani or believed to be Pakistani prisoners in its custody. New Delhi has urged Islamabad to expedite the release and repatriation of 167 Indian prisoners who have completed their jail terms and sought immediate consular access to 35 others. India said sustained diplomatic efforts have led to the repatriation of more than 2,700 Indian nationals from Pakistan since 2014. Now for this discussion, we welcome Mr. A.K. Sivachi. He's a geostrategic expert, joins us live from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Mr. Sivachi, for joining us once again, and Happy New Year to you. Now looking at this, what more can you tell us about this continued exchange of nuclear installations, lists, and the relationship of Pakistan and India right now?
No doubt. See, as far as this treaty is concerned, that the sharing of information about nuclear installation, which will not be attacked during case of hostility. This, of course, treaty was signed in 1988 and then came effective 1991. But actually, both the countries became a nuclear weapon state in 1998. But all said and done, both the nuclear installations location is shared on 1st January along with the prisoners. And the prisoners are also being thereafter pursued by each other country to give it back. Basically, these are fishermen. They, by mistake, go into another country's international water, in their water in EEZ from the international water zone. And they are caught by their country, and by this, they manage to get them back, also put pressure wherever there are prisoners, where the consular access is not given. Now, that's a routine thing which is happening between India and Pakistan. But the point comes is Pakistan very, you can say, honest in giving the detail of its nuclear weapons and nuclear installation details, which there is a doubt. Because remember in Operation Sindoor, when India has targeted their 11 frontline airfields on 9th, 10th May, that there was Noor Khan Sargodha was also hit, along with Bolari, Rahimya Khan, Jacobabad, Skardu. But in Kirana Hills, they were saying that there were some sort of bomb which had landed there, which India said no, we have not attacked Kirana Hill in any way. But why the Pakistani were jittery? Because there was some nuclear installation there in Kirana Hills, and it looks like that these details were never shared with India. So therefore the point is, possibly the Americans are also involved in protecting the nuclear installations of Pakistan, or they are jointly doing, one does not know. But during Operation Sindoor, once Sargodha and Noor Khan were hit, there was something with the Pakistani were claiming that we have also hit Kirana Hills, which was 50 to 60 kilometers from these bases, Noor Khan. So the point is, one, that Pakistan is not sincere in sharing. Pakistan is a country which hides many things. Pakistan is a country which is sponsoring terrorism. Pakistan is a country that it has got number of terrorists which they send it toward India, especially Lashkar-e-Toba, Jaise Mohammed. And Pakistan also claimed that they are, basically victim of terrorism. And because one will say that this terrorism which you are victim is not being created by anyone else, it has been created by Pakistan itself, the Tariq-e-Taliban Pakistan. So we keep on thinking that it should not happen, that if there is a civil war type situation which built up in Pakistan and which can take place, and Pakistan breaking into four in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Balochistan, Sindh and Punjab, then the chances of these nuclear weapons falling into the hands of terrorists is very high. That is a cause of concern which India times again point out even to America, that the nuclear installation and nuclear weapons are not safe in Pakistan. They are the one which can fall into the wrong hands, because they are not well protected, and the America must take care of that. Though Pakistan keep on saying.
Major General, also since you know India and Pakistan ties are not the best, but of course they're both neighbors. How important it is for them to neutralize their relationship and work on confidence building with each other, and how significant are these prisoner exchanges, the continuous prisoner exchanges, in terms of confidence building for these two nations?
Of course, if both the countries have good relation, it is good for both of them. It's good for Pakistan, but it is also good for India. But the problem with Pakistan is, we are telling time and again that India want to maintain a very good cordial relation with Pakistan, provided it stop cross-border terrorism. You know, the terrorism and talks cannot go together. So the problem between both these countries is terrorism, and Pakistan policy of bleeding India with 1,000 cuts, policy of hybrid warfare, try to send these terrorists, especially Lashkar-e-Toba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, is a cause of concern. And until they don't stop this, no good relation can prevail between India and Pakistan. We will like that good relation should come, but Pakistan has to look into it. And Pakistan should understand that as on today, they are on the verge of civil war, because the terrorism has increased manifold there. There is a political instability, there is economic crisis, and there is a chance of civil war, and then Pakistan breaking into four is a ground reality, whether it is Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Balochistan, Sindh and Punjab. So as far as India is concerned, we would like to maintain a very good relation with Pakistan, provided they stop this cross-border terrorism. But unfortunately, Pakistan is on a denial mode. Pakistan keep on saying that they are nothing to do the terrorists which are coming in India, Jammu and Kashmir, but that's not the fact. The fact is, when Hillary Clinton came in 2013 as a Secretary of State in Pakistan, she warned Pakistan that if you have snakes in your courtyard and you think it will only bite your neighbor, one day they will bite you. So all this TTP terrorists which are there in Pakistan, Tariq-e-Taliban Pakistan, they have been created in Pakistan madrasas itself. So the point is, Pakistan differentiate between good and bad terrorists. The terrorists which it sent toward India, Lashkar-e-Toba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, they call them good terrorists. The terrorists which hit them, they call them a bad terrorist. Until unless they stop this differentiation between terrorism and stop it completely, the relationship between India and Pakistan can't improve. And that Pakistan has to look into its own, that in case they want to have good relation with us, then they must stop this cross-border terrorism. Terrorism and talks cannot go, and Pakistan knows it, that we have already displayed in Operation Sindoor 1.0 that we have a capability of hitting them hard. Within 4 days they came onto their knees, and Operation Sindoor is still not over. It is only a pause. If Pakistan keeps on doing terrorist activity in India, then we will again go back, and this time our strike will be much more, you can say, fatal. So Pakistan has to realize that, and until unless Pakistan do not change its way of thinking and it stop sending terrorists, you can't find good relation occurring between India and Pakistan.
Thank you very much, Major General A.K. Sivaji, for joining us and sharing that insight. We have a breaking news. Clashes between protesters and security forces in southwest Iran have left 2 people dead. The first civilian casualties since cost of living demonstrations began over the past weekend. According to Iranian local media, the fatalities occurred in the city of Lordigan, around 650 kilometers south of Tehran. The unrest followed protests over rising prices and economic hardships affecting daily life. Fars has reported that the situation in Lordigan involved confrontations with security forces, stone throwing by demonstrators, and some property damage. Authorities have not yet provided details on arrests or the identity of the deceased. The protests come amid wider economic pressures that have sparked similar demonstrations across other parts of the country. That's all we have time for. Keep watching NewX World for more news updates from around the world.